Gotham episode 19, Beasts of Prey. Now, this show has been off for like a month and a half. It's almost been like 2 months, really, and the reason they did that, for anyone who might not know, is actually because they didn't really want to compete with other season finales. I guess they kind of knew, with Gotham being not only a new show, but kind of I guess, second least favorite show. I mean, I don't know how well Constantine is doing. We still have to wait until like the summer for whatever odd reason to see if that gets renewed, which I seriously hope it does. But I guess they knew like Gotham couldn't really compete as far as season finales go with some of the other bigger shows, whether they're new shows like The Flash, and obviously they wouldn't want to compete against that, which is different days anyway. But they felt they had some competition, so they wanted to hold off on season finales, and they wanted to make sure that they could get as many people to watch it as possible. So these last couple episodes were kind of held off because we'd really be done with the season by now if they hadn't done that. We would have, the weeks that we didn't have the show, the series would have ended really like last week or even 2 weeks ago with how few episodes we actually have left. But I thought this was a really cool episode to come back on. I thought it was actually really nice that the main enemy was actually someone that they didn't find in this episode. It was someone who's like this big, like we get to see what he does, but the cops investigating him, mostly obviously Jim and Bullock, they don't really get to see how things kind of play out with this guy until they get this little piece of info, and it's like this guy isn't just some criminal who killed this girl who had been missing for 4 months. This is a guy that really only high-ranking detectives even know about, because this person cannot be captured. Like when he finds out someone's investigating him, he kills that person's family. He kills the people they love. So people who do understand this stuff, they kind of don't bother with it. They back off because they don't want the people they love to get hurt. And Loeb, after being kind of blackmailed and really decided this was going to be his first little step towards taking Jim down, to stop him from running for commissioner and stuff like that. And this is his way of dealing with how he was dealt with, really. So I thought it was actually a very interesting episode. The character was played by Milo Ventimiglia, so I'm sure a lot of people know him from Heroes and a ton of other stuff that he's been in. But because I know him from Heroes, when I saw him in this episode with like the slick back hair and stuff, it made me think of Heroes, because in Heroes, the version of him that's like from the future has his hair like that. So it was like, oh, it's like future him. I don't remember his name. I think his name was Nathan in the show. It was like, oh, it's the future version of his character. But I liked it. I thought it was really cool. He was like this suave guy who's just like talking with people and stuff, and he seduces young attractive women, and then it's like, oh, he falls for them and they fall for him, and then boom, you're trapped. And it seemed simple enough at first. I mean, obviously we knew he was going to be the killer the whole time, but like when they first showed the dungeon, it's like kind of like they were doing as much as they could to be next to like 50 Shades of Grey or something like that. So we got like 50 Shades of Gotham or whatever, and he's takes it a little bit further because he murders people. But he has like this crazy dungeon with a bunch of like the weirdest weapons, and like I was noticing it when they had it where he was taking the pictures of the woman, and so he puts the pictures in like this really long briefcase full of stuff, and what he picked up was like this giant folding blade, and it was like the size of a regular knife, or even bigger. Even it seemed like the handle was like this big itself, and then it like pulls a blade out of it, which you only see like the blades with those types of knives at max, they're about the length of the handle that he was holding, and it was just like a giant knife. And then he's talking to her, and it's like you look in the background, it's like he had like a blue katana and like a halberd, if that's how you pronounce it. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But it's like he has these crazy weapons and stuff, and it's like, what's the point of all that stuff? Like, is he really, doing stuff like that and using those types of crazy weapons when he's taking pictures of these women and keeping them trapped up? Or like, it's just like, it made him just crazier. Like, they just threw weapons in there, like, let's give him like a super crazy battle axe, and it's just like, it makes him crazier. And it actually does, because it's like, why does he need that? Like, why is that in his super secret death dungeon where he ties girls up and puts them in like 50s clothes, which kind of just fits in with the show because they blend a lot of different eras together. Like even in this episode when he was taking the pictures, it was with like a really old Polaroid camera, and it was just like that's one of those little things where they blend these different genres together, where they're in different outfits and stuff. Like he dressed like she was dressed normally when they first met, but the way he dressed her up, it was kind of like a 50s style, especially when he had like the black bow in her hair. And that was also the scene that made me think of 50 Shades of Grey, because that was like in the trailer. But like her having like the black thing around her eyes or whatever. But it was really cool to watch this character in an interesting way too, because they've never done that in the show, where we see the villain through like flashbacks that no one is involved in. We've seen it where it's like, oh, maybe it's a flashback of Bullock, and this is the villain he, encountered in the past. But this is just like, they knew the girl died. We knew that there was a killer out there, but they showed us who it was. There was no mystery because they never ran into the killer, and we didn't know it. It wasn't like that where it's like, oh, we met the killer and we just didn't know. It was just, they aren't going to catch this guy in this episode. They may not catch him in the next one. I'm sure they will, because it's Jim. He'll do something that's like amazing. But I just thought that was actually a really interesting way for them to do that, where we get this cool little flashback. Unfortunately, and that was one of the interesting things about it too, is that we knew this girl had already died, and it was like, man, it makes you think like, I wish she could get out of this, but you already know what happened. You know that she died because that's how the case really started. And so they go, we get the end of the case, and then they go through the flashbacks and show us who the villain is, because they're not going to catch him, and they don't know, who this guy is, and they don't even know what he looks like. So there'd be no way he would literally, like, especially in this case where he didn't know he was being investigated, he would have to literally just be in the show or something, and he wasn't. And so they did a very good job kind of showing off this character and giving us a look into the world of the serial killer, who we do find out is a serial killer, and this isn't the first time he's done this. He's done it several times. And I just thought it was a really unique way, for them at least. I mean, it's been done before, but it's not something they've done in the show. So I thought it was definitely really cool to have it where they're doing this investigation and stuff, and then, part of that storyline was just sheer flashback of exactly how this girl died, and there's kind of no way out of it. Like, we knew how it ended, but we still see it step by step, and how he kind of takes these girls in, and how he tricks them and stuff, and acts like he's a really nice guy, and he has like the fancy house and all this stuff, and then he won't let the girl go, and he just keeps them locked up and stuff like that. So I thought it was really unique for the show. It was cool that they kind of went in a bit of a new direction as far as the cases, and how they do a character that's going to be carried over, because they did that with the electrocutioner as well, but he was like most of the villains they had in the show, where they met the characters or they were actually going to be caught, so we saw what they did in real time. And for this one, it was all in flashbacks instead of real time, because he's not going to be captured until the next episode. But that was really cool. I think the stuff with Fish Mooney was just insane as always. It's really crazy, and I was actually really, really shocked by it, because I didn't expect her to get out or really get off the prison nearly as fast as she did. Like, every episode, it was like the next step. I really thought this episode would be her still trying to figure things out. Like, she got herself in command, like it's the second in command, and then she'd be trying to figure out something. She'd almost get busted, which she did in this episode, and she got flat out busted in the episode as well. And it's just like, well, I was surprised that she escaped by the end of the episode. She escaped with a bullet in her stomach, but it was just surprising that she actually escaped by the end of this episode. And they had a lot of great moments with her storyline too, like when she was almost captured and she kind of had to make up a lie, and she got out of it. But I loved the scene because I think his name is Dr. Schumacher, but the doll maker, the way he was just crazy, and it's like, he doesn't like liars and stuff, and he has the gun, which I thought was cool, because they had it where she took the scissors off of his desk and she was hiding that, and then he just sits down like, okay, and then it's just like he just has a gun right there, and he was really blunt. It was just like, I want to shoot you unless you tell me the truth. And she tells him that her idea was to kill herself and stuff. He was like, okay, like you lied to me, but it wasn't because you were going to kill me, it was because you were going to kill yourself. If you try something like that again, then I'll bring you back to life if I have to. And then he just puts the gun down. It's like, anything else? Like it completely left his mind after like a millisecond. It was just like, anything else? And that was it. And he just like, he's fine. And it was just a crazy scene. It made him even crazier. And then he gets beat up at the end. Of course, they didn't kill him off, but the doll maker is gonna come back. I don't know if he's gonna like chop up the body parts of like all the guys that Mooney sent to just get shot up because she knew, they work for the older guy. Maybe they won't have nearly as much respect for me. They aren't gonna give a crap. So of course she sets them up, and that's they just get destroyed. Like those, like I think it was like 3 separate people at least that we could see. It was like the main guy who's the leader of these crazy island guards. There was a guy next to him, and then when they had the scene on the guys standing against the wall who got shot up, there was a guy like far off in the background that you can see too, and they just get destroyed. Like 5 guys just getting shot up with assault rifles and stuff, or I guess AK-47s, whatever you want to call it. But that was just crazy. Like they just get mowed down. They were just, I mean, honestly, all they had to do was shoot across like one time and they'd be dead. But it's just like, I think it was like 20 seconds of just straight gunfire, and from a machine gun, obviously that's like a ton of bullets, in 30 seconds. So they're just being mowed down. There's only, like I said, a couple people. They were right up against the wall, so it was like a firing squad type of thing. And they get taken down, and Mooney helps the people she actually cares about escape. And they did a little bit of cool foreshadowing with the doll maker, saying like he would shoot her in the stomach and kind of describing the pain she would feel. And then that's how the episode ends. When she's escaping, she gets hit in the stomach by the rifle bullet, and so she has that burning intensity in her stomach and things like that. But she'll be fine because it takes a long time to die from being shot in the stomach, depending on where you get shot, of course. But I'm sure she'll be fine. Also, really surprised that the guy pulled out like a rifle, and my girlfriend pointed this out when we were watching. Is that it's like he just shot once and then that was it, like nothing happened. And I thought it was even weirder that he just wouldn't flat out have a rocket launcher. Like they go to a car and it's like he pulls up the cover. It's like, oh, and then it's like, oh, it's a rifle. Like you think it would just be a flat out rocket launcher. Like screw this. They have a boat. It's like if we have to go off, take this freaking freighter out to get another helicopter, that's what we do, rather than letting people escape and warning, telling the media about our super secret, surgery island where we chop people up and illegal organ trafficking and stuff like that on this crazy island mansion in the middle of nowhere. So I was really surprised that they went that route. It seemed like way too little of a reaction. Like they should have been prepared. Honestly, with a rocket launcher, I feel like that's the only useful response. I mean, if they did that, then it would have been even crazier if they did escape, because the helicopter would have had to do like an insane television dodge of a freaking missile flying through the sky, and that would have looked even stupider. But either way, it was still a weird little scene. Like the guy did only shoot one time. It wasn't like he shot and he was missing, and then they got far enough away, which would have to be really far away because he had a sniper rifle. But he did only shoot once, and it's just like boom, and she got hit in the stomach, which obviously he wouldn't know. I mean, I guess he would because he knows where he shot, but it's still like one bullet that's not stopping people. You just shot her in the stomach, and she was obviously fine enough to keep flying. You need to really keep shooting. Like if what you do instead of capturing people is mow them down with machine guns, if they got the helicopter, you need to keep firing until they die and crash the helicopter, or you blow it up. And I understand, I mean, they'd have to say it, but if it was because the helicopter was so close, he didn't want it like falling down and obviously exploding like right in front of him, that would make a lot of sense. But really, it was like, if that were the case, you wouldn't think he'd shoot once. So it's like, it's like you either shoot a bunch of times or you don't shoot at all, because you could risk shooting someone and killing them. And he was obviously aiming at the person flying the helicopter, so there is no, he was aiming at anyone else. He was just aiming right at her. And so it's like, well, either you shoot a bunch, you just keep shooting until you kill them, or you don't shoot at all. Unless then I guess you could also argue he's like, the marksman or whatever. He had the sniper rifle. So I guess you could argue that as well. But it was sort of that weird thing where it's like, it surprised me it wasn't, like I said, a rocket launcher to begin with, and then it was just a sniper rifle, and he only shot one time. It's like, It's just a weird thing to be in between about. Like, you got to stop them from escaping, or you stop them. Like, and if you don't stop them, then it's because you didn't want to injure the person flying. And like I said, they crash and blow the thing up, and a giant freaking helicopter blade flies and splits you in half or something. But yeah, it was still a great scene. That's just like a minor thing that really stood out to me, especially like my girlfriend mentioned, like him shooting one time and then it's just like, all right, that's it, and it flies away. That it stands out. And like she mentioned that, and like I said, I really noticed the rocket launcher thing, because you got a helicopter, you just blow it up. Like, you got to stop people from escaping. You just blow that crap up, and you buy a new one. You got illegal organs getting you a bunch of money. Just take the boat and get a new one. That's all you got to do. But I still loved it. I'm incredibly excited to see where they take things, because I don't know, with her being off on this crazy, mysterious island, I have no idea how far away from Gotham she really is. Gotham is like, in its own world, so it's not like she's like, it's New York obviously, but it's not like she's actually just going straight back to New York or anything. It's Gotham, so this random island could be really close to Gotham. It's obviously close enough. They got her there. That couldn't have been that long. She was on like a little boat, and she got attacked by the pirates, and then she was on the island when she woke up. So it couldn't possibly be that far. So I'm excited to see where things go and what happens when she gets back to Gotham. And the criminal element of things, like what the heck's going to happen there, what's she going to do with Penguin, and especially with what he's doing now, where he does all this work and stuff to get this location, and it's where he wants to kill Don Maroney because it's a place Don Maroney likes to go to. So I thought that was a cool little thing. But it's like, what's she gonna do with him? What's she gonna do with Bullock, and him finding her? And it's like, what the heck happened? You have like a new eye now. I sent you off to be protected and be safe because I care about you. And then you come back and you've got like an eye missing. You got people with like a guy with his something missing. I don't know what he could be missing from his stomach that would be worth selling, but he could survive without. I don't know what's in your stomach. Like, you can take stuff out of your stomach, but it's stuff you don't need. So I was very curious when they had the surgery for the guy, and he was actually alive in the episode, and it was just like, oh, your stomach's cut. I was like, what did they take out of his stomach? Maybe, I guess they took his kidney. I guess that makes sense. I guess it had to be his kidney then. But when I first saw it, I was like, what could they take out of his stomach that they would need to take out that he could live without? And I guess now it makes sense. They just needed one of his kidneys. So he was fairly fortunate. He just has to pee a lot more now. But I thought it was pretty cool. Like I said, I'm excited to see what happens when she gets back in town. So that should be crazy in general, because everyone kind of just doesn't know what's happening with her, and then she just poof, she comes back. Butch, we haven't seen him in a little bit. I don't think he was in the last couple of episodes, so she's gonna come back. He's like completely mentally changed, so that should be pretty interesting when they encounter each other again as well. But it was definitely a cool section of the episode. The final portion was pretty interesting, with Bruce trying to go out and find Alfred's friend, and he confronts the guy. He gets help from Selena, and the ending was a pretty nice surprise. Like, Selena pushing the guy out the window so that they wouldn't be exposed was definitely shocking. Like, and Bruce wanted to do it, but it's not really in him, and Selena just pushes the guy out the window, and he's done for, which is obviously going to cause some discomfort with Alfred and things like that. And odds are Bruce is going to mention he found him, and then it's going to be like, well, what happened after you found him? Won't he say something? And he'll kind of have to mention that the guy's dead now. But he has the names of the people. I was surprised he didn't instantly say, like, I know those people, I know those names, because they were talking to him, and a couple episodes ago, they're the ones on the board. So I have to assume that it's those aren't their real names. They gave like fake names, but it didn't seem like they did. Like, they give like full on names. It wasn't like, oh, they just gave me last names or anything. He named one person by his first, and it was like Sid Bunderschlaw or something like that. So I was surprised that Bruce didn't instantly recognize the name or something like that, since he's really trying to get into working on the board. But I thought that was actually really cool. Like, I loved it. My girlfriend kind of hates all the stuff with Bruce and Selena, like, entirely. That's like her second most hated thing. And number one, of course, like everyone's number one, I guess, is Barbara. But she hates all the stuff with Bruce and Selena, which I find so funny because I really enjoy it. Like, she thinks Bruce is being like super stupid and stuff because he's supposed to become Batman and stuff. But I was thinking, like, he's a kid. I thought it made perfect sense. He's not gonna be smart 100% of the time. He's gonna screw up. And if anything, this is the perfect storyline as to why he would screw up, because Alfred was stabbed. He's the only person he has left. That's exactly why it makes sense that he would do something as stupid as this and go find answers that he shouldn't really be looking for by himself or at all, really. But he does, because that just makes sense. He wants answers to help out the one person that he has left. And I think it makes perfect sense. I'm enjoying it a lot. Like, I love the ending. It was a real big surprise. It would have been a huge shock if they had it where Bruce actually was the one that did it. That would actually been amazing. And then he has to deal with that, and it's like, that's why he doesn't kill this Batman or whatever. But I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it. With him getting the names, he's obviously gonna realize at some point. I would assume we only got 4 episodes left, so I have to assume in one of these episodes he'll kind of get a full list and get the idea that it's his own people, like, thinking that they don't need him around. So he'll figure it out in these next couple episodes, which I'm very excited for, because once he does that, he might make some other pretty stupid decisions, and Alfred might not be able to really do anything to stop him. So I think this was a good episode to come back on. I think it had some pretty interesting points. We saw a surprise death, with Selena killing Alfred's friend. That's obviously going to have a huge, it's going to make a difference in these next couple of episodes for sure. We got to see Mooney escape the island. Like, every episode with her has just been one huge step after another. I think, like, ever since she left, every time they do the storyline, a huge thing happens over and over. Like, she left, she got picked up by the pirates, she wakes up in this crazy island. I think, if I remember right, in the episode she got to the island, she killed the guy, and then she took over. And then in the next episode was actually the last one, where she took her own eye out. And then, or I guess the one before last, she took her eye out. And then the last episode, she found out she was on an island. And then in this one, she escaped. So in, like, each episode, it's like captured, kill the guy, take over, take out my own eye, end up taking over as second in command, realize I'm on an island, and then escape the island. So, like, every episode has just been, like, done. And so I have to assume she's going to be back in Gotham within the next episode, because if all that stuff was dragged out, it could easily last until the next season. But they're just making it so, compact, and I love it for that, because that's really the fastest moving storyline in the entire series, honestly. It's like, everything else is kind of typical TV show stuff. Her storyline is like 3 seasons, just like done. It's just like captured, take over, move up into position, and then get the heck out of there within the next episode. So I'm loving that for sure. I think it's great that we have it that way. Penguin's storyline, I feel, is actually being put on the back burner a little bit more now that he's in this sort of odd position. Like, they obviously kind of lit the fire a little bit, got it going a little bit more in this one, where he works to get this location. And I love the little scene they had where he walked past Bruce and he stopped for a second. It was just like, and just kept moving. I thought that was actually a cool little scene. But, they kind of reignited that he has his set goal now, where he wants to take out Maroni, which, if Mooney comes back, that's going to be pushed off a little bit more. But with these being the last, 4 or 5 episodes, odds are all that stuff is going to happen at once, and he'll find a way to take out Maroni. And then, who knows, what if Mooney came in and then she reestablished herself after Penguin kills Maroni? She ends up taking over Maroni's place, and it's like the same thing all over again, but now she's the enemy outside. And instead of it being Mooney and Falcone, with Penguin as, sort of an underling, it's Penguin and Falcone versus Mooney, and she takes over Maroni's place. Like, that would be crazy if that even remotely happened, because Falcone and Maroni kind of work together anyway. So, yeah, like, if it does happen, it would be amazing. If not, whatever they do is going to be insane anyway. But I like this episode, of course. I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. And I want to know, what do you guys think about this sort of comeback episode? Like, we had a lot of different elements. Jim going after this guy and finding out that he's like a crazy serial killer. Also, I forgot to mention, like, that was an amazing last scene that he had when he, kind of had enough of the commissioner's crap. It was like, he grabs him and stuff, and he pushed the cop like back off. And I love this scene they did when the guy, after he pushed him, he's about to walk up to him again. He's just like, don't. And they just zoomed in. It was like straight on his hand. Everything else was blurred out, like, just don't. And that was kind of it. It stopped everything. I thought that was a cool little argument. He just walked out. Loeb was kind of looking down like, I don't know what to do. So I loved that little ending scene. But there are a lot of great elements. And I'm excited for these next 4 episodes. I think it'll be a pretty crazy season finale. In the preview, I know Barbara was in the next episode. I'm sure nobody gives a crap about her dying or living. I do, just because if she died, it would be crazy for Jim. But, we'll have to wait and see how all that stuff plays out. But, I'm excited for it. Only 4 episodes left, and I want to know what you guys think about them. I know this is a long review. I know it's like, oh crap, this is like 30 minutes long. That's insane. But, it was an interesting episode. I feel like I spent most of the video complaining about the helicopter thing, but it really stood out. I don't know if anyone made it this far. If you did, just put potatoes, I guess. I don't know. But I want to know what you guys thought about it. Sorry this one is like incredibly long, but I do appreciate you watching if you ended up making it this far. So, please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.